Hey guys, welcome back to Well and Worthy Life. I'm so excited to have one of my besties back. She's been here a few times with me on the podcast, and we have touched on this subject. But with Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, I was like, you've got to come back on and we've got to talk about this more. Last week, you may remember, I had Shannon Mann, Oysters to Pearl, on, and we talked about her breast cancer journey. And so I'm super excited to have Kathy Williamson, one of my very best friends in the whole wide world. She actually inspired me to do Well and Worthy Life. It's really all because of you, Kathy.
Oh, stop it. Well, if it was, I'm so glad. Look at you now, sister. You're killing
Well,
it.
it has evolved tremendously from what it started out to be, isn't it? I mean, it's just
Yeah, for
amazing
sure. For sure. But you're
what's
killing it.
happened.
You're killing it. Yay
Well,
for you.
I found my zone, and I love helping women in that perimenopausal, menopausal, and we're not talking about it enough. We just aren't talking about it enough.
No, no, we're not. We're
Mhm,
not. And I just saw, I think it was Naomi Watts
mhm.
just came out with a product for what you're talking about.
What kind of
Yeah.
product? Do you remember?
He has different products, a couple different products, but I think it's called Spot Shine or Spotlight Shine, maybe, or Spotlight. I can't remember. I have to send it to you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So this is also Menopause Awareness Month. Did you know that in
Yeah,
October?
yeah. And I was just like, why do they have to put them both in the same month? I
I
don't
know
know.
menopause, not breast cancer. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. There's so many more women this year and the next 5 years that are hitting menopause. And so more and more products, we used to be the kind of the forgotten people, the
Yeah,
forgotten,
exactly.
you know, but
Yeah,
now they're all wanting to sell us products. And what is
exactly.
great, it's wonderful because a lot of these products can help us and make this part of our life can be, and for me, and I know for you too, is some of the best years, some of the best years ever. And so it doesn't have to be something to dread. It can be amazing. And there's a lot of products and a lot of things that we can do to change the way we feel and look
Exactly.
and all the things.
Exactly. I wonder statistically, I wonder if more women are going through menopause earlier. I mean, do you know
No,
that?
really, the
Or
average age is 51.
still,
But the
okay.
whole thing is now they are entering perimenopause
Yeah,
early.
early.
In fact, that can last 8 to 10 years. So it could start in your 40s, even your late 30s. But they really have decided that it's really more hormonal imbalance than true perimenopause. And what's so crazy is perimenopause and thyroid disease mimic each other. So that's why it's really important to go to your doctor to really find out, am I in perimenopause? Do I have thyroid issues? Because with all the yo-yo dieting and all the different things that we've tried over the years, we do kind of screw up our system.
Well, I just remember going, I guess I was perimenopause, I don't know, or hormonal, whatever, but I just remember I think my late 30s, I started having those night sweats.
Yes.
And I
Mhm.
mean, like severe night sweats. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Right. And we were just talking about that in my Balanced Wellness Method program today. We have Zoom calls every week, and we were just talking about sleep. And the night sweats interrupt your sleep,
Yeah.
which if you're not sleeping at least 7 hours a night, it can shorten your lifespan. So,
I just got this ring.
oh, you got my aura ring. The best.
Well, except it makes me feel really bad about my sleep.
Oh, wait. So what is your sleep like? You got to tell us.
Oh, not good. I mean, it's been for the past, because I've had it about a month.
Uh-huh.
Seriously, I get about 37 minutes of deep sleep. That's it.
Okay. So you have to focus and work on that. I've had to build up. Do you take magnesium?
No.
Oh, and you can't take progesterone probably.
Well, actually, I do take a little bit. Yes, I do take a little bit.
Okay. So magnesium, it'll be your best friend.
Yeah.
And because I have built up, and you know what my score was last night?
What?
95.
For your sleep?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, well, now you're gonna make me, so I charged my ring last night, so I didn't get to see, but you're gonna make me want to see what my score was then, because I had a really good score the night before.
Okay,
And
good.
mine was 95 the night before too.
Awesome.
The highest I've ever had. And that was when we were in LA, our last night in LA. And I woke up yesterday and told Buster, I was like, oh my gosh, how did
Mhm.
this happen? But it was my highest score I've ever had, because it's usually not like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, really, you just have to focus on it. And because sleep is so important, and those night sweats that you guys, that interrupted it. And I do think as we get older, it's can be harder to sleep. But when I'm talking to my clients,
Yeah.
I would say probably sleep is the number one thing for health. Sleep and water, getting enough water. Those
I
two
agree.
things.
And they even tell you when you're going through breast cancer, make sure
Mhm.
you're sleeping, I
Mhm.
mean, it's, I think, the number one.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
love my
Yeah.
sleep.
Oh, I do too.
I
I
love
do too.
nothing more than to get in my bed and go to sleep. I love it.
So I have to ask you now that we're on this sleep, and we're going to get to breast cancer. Don't worry, y'all. So do you go to bed at the same time every night?
Kind of. Yeah, basically.
And
Yeah.
then do you wake up basically the same time every morning?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's really important too. That's why your sleep will get, it gets better and better if you do stay within a rhythm, a routine. It's just like babies. Remember when we had babies?
Right, right, right,
If we
right.
got them on that routine, so some people think, oh, well, it's the weekend. I can stay up later, or I can sleep later, but that kind of messes up your routine, your circadian rhythm. And that is really important too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got yours too. I figured you had
oh,
one.
I've had it. This is my second one.
Oh, really?
It's my, and the reason I got a second one is they updated it, and I gave my other one to Jeff because I thought he needed one. So I gave that one to him. I got the newer one, and I love it. I love it. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
good.
So while we're here, breast cancer. So let's just go back. I know most people that are listening to this probably have heard what kind of cancer you have had and what happened and everything. But for those that are new listening, or maybe you need a refresher, will you just start from the beginning and kind of tell everybody what happened and how you
Yeah.
found out? And
Yeah, sure. So it was in 2013, and I had gone for a mammogram, and which I did every year. I was very diligent about getting my mammograms, and I went in and just the standard mammogram. And I think maybe it was on a Friday. And it's funny because we had gone to dinner with friends that Sunday, and both of us, both females at dinner, had just had mammograms. And I said, oh my gosh, I just had one, and she goes, do you ever get, are you ever afraid they're going to call you back? And I'm like, no, I don't ever think about that. And so Monday came around, and the nurse called me and she said, no big deal, but they want you to go back and get some more films taken because they saw some calcifications. And she said, no big deal. Tons of women get calcifications. Don't worry about it. Just go back and get some more films. So I said, okay. And my mom had had calcifications, but nothing came of it.
Mhm.
So I went back on that Monday. I actually got in that Monday.
Mhm.
And so I stayed there for quite a while. And I remember they kept coming in and doing more films. And then they'd say, just wait right here. And then they'd do some more. Then finally they were like, you can get dressed, but we want you to wait out in the hall because the radiologist wants to talk to you. And when she said that, I was sort of like, well, crap, that doesn't sound good. And so anyway, he pulls me in his office, and there are my films. They were huge. I just remember huge, like on a huge screen TV. And he said, look, I want you to look at this. And he pointed to this area, and he said, it's a calcification, but I don't really like the way it looks. And I can't remember exactly, but all I remember was that it looked like it had tentacles coming out of it.
Mhm.
And he said, you have a lot of calcifications. And I'm like, that's weird because I never had them before. Y'all never told me I had them before.
Mhm.
And so he said, well, this is the one I think you need to have a biopsy on. So fast forward to a couple days later, I think that was Monday. On Thursday, I was at UT Southwestern. A friend of a friend got me into a breast surgeon there who
Mhm.
she just said, you should just be one of her patients anyways. And
Mhm.
she got me lined up with the radiologist that was going to do my biopsy, who happened to be head of radiology, who was the nicest man. Anyway, I had my biopsy that day and met with her that afternoon. And I just remember him saying it was in a spot that he's like, where this spot is, it's like number 12, like the number 12 on a clock. That's where
Mm.
my cancer was, or tumor was. And he just said it's hiding in the duct. And so it was like, felt like a jackhammer, like him trying to get to it.
Oh.
And I remember him saying, look, I got some pull around here, because he was the head of radiology. He goes, I'll try to get this back to you tomorrow, or, give you the results tomorrow.
Mhm.
Then I went in to see her, the surgeon, and she walked in. I've never met this woman before.
Mhm.
And she said, so I think we have options because we're finding this early. I think we have options. And I'm like, and my daughter had gone with me. And right when she said that, it was sort of like the Charlie Brown teacher. It was a wah, 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 wah. I mean, I didn't hear anything she said. And so we walked out. She goes, I want to see you here next Tuesday, and we'll start, we'll make a plan.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't know what she's talking, I really don't know what she's talking about. And she said, you probably won't hear until Monday about your results. I remember walking to the elevator and looking at my daughter, and I said, did she just tell me I had breast cancer? And my daughter said, I think she did. And I'm like, what? And so, of course, my husband was out of town. So the next day, I get a phone call from the radiologist, and he just said, I hate to tell you this, but it was malignant. And so I just remember thinking, wait, this is all a bad dream. And then my husband was like, are you sure they got the right person? Are you sure it was your results? And
Yeah.
anyway, so we went in the next Tuesday and met with Dr. Leach, my doctor, and she was like, so you're going to have to do either a lumpectomy, and then we'll kind of see what happens. But, do you want to do a lumpectomy, or you do want to do a mastectomy? And I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I had implants anyway,
Mhm.
and it's just going to be the same thing. They're going to put implants back in. Might as well just go ahead and do all of it, because
Mhm.
I just had heard stories of people that did a lumpectomy, and I'm not saying that's not the right choice, but I just don't want to take the chance on it coming back again. And so I was just like, I'm just going to do the whole shebang. And so 2 weeks later, I was on the table, and it was an 8-hour surgery, which,
Mm.
I mean, my husband and my kids were like, had no idea. I didn't even know
Mhm.
how long I was going to be
Mhm.
under, but it was 8 hours. And she did find that there was one lymph node involved. They
Mhm.
take out the sentinel lymph nodes and they
Mhm.
test those, and one of them had been involved. So I met with the oncologist, had an appointment with the oncologist a week after my mastectomy. We met with him, and he's the one that broke the news to me that I had triple negative. I had no idea I had triple negative. And
Would you have, when they told you had triple negative, would you have even, did you
known
know
what it
what?
was? No,
Yeah. Yeah,
no.
I was gonna
The only
say, I
reason
mean,
I thought breast cancer was all the same. I
breast
mean,
cancer.
breast
Yeah,
cancer,
right.
right? Like it's like, it's like a male. If it's you get prostate cancer, and isn't there just only one prostate cancer? I just thought it was just one.
Yeah.
Well, so you and I had a mutual friend in Birmingham
Mhm.
who had been diagnosed 6 weeks before me with triple negative. And that's the only reason I knew what triple negative was. And,
Mm.
you know, when you hear, I had learned about it through our friend,
Mhm.
and it sounded really dire, really scary and dire. And so when I got that diagnosis, I was just like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's like a death sentence. And so, but it's not.
It's not, you're still here and you're
Yes,
going to be here a long time.
yeah, but it's not. And if you are diagnosed with triple negative, or somebody that is, it's not. And it's like I don't know why when you look it up, and Dr. Google is not a good way to learn about things, really and truly, because it's not really all the truth. But anyway, so I learned that was what my fate was, and that I would start chemo. I would start chemo the next week. And so that, and I didn't love that oncologist, so I ended up switching to another oncologist that I really loved. And so we started, and so I did 8 rounds of, 4 rounds of 2 drugs mixed together. It's called the Red Devil and another one, and then 4 rounds of Taxol, but it ended up being 4 months. And so I would have it every other week. And it was dose dense, just, I guess, meaning a little stronger, I guess. That's what that means. But anyway, so that went on from August 1st to November 7th. So that was the day that I was on my calendar that I was going to end chemo. And so I pretty much stayed away from everybody so that I wouldn't get sick, so that I could meet that goal and be through with it. So, and then I had to wait a month, and then I had I was supposed to have 26 rounds of radiation, but I only made it to 23 because I got really severely burned and that got infected. So, and then you have to wait after radiation, you wait 6 months. I will say that after I had my mastectomy, they put expanders in. And so you have to get the expanders taken out. So I waited 6 months until I could have my surgery to reconstruct, the transfer surgery to reconstruct. So the whole process was a year.
Yeah.
Start to finish.
So is protocol the same now? Because that was 2000, how many years has it been now?
9. No, so they've switched it to doing chemo first and then your surgery. Although I've heard a couple people lately say that they've had the tumor taken out and then started chemo. So I don't really know what I pretty much for the last, I'd say 8 years, it was chemo first. So they could watch how the tumor responds. But like mine wasn't, you couldn't even see it. So, it was like you couldn't see it, you couldn't feel it. And that's why I like to tell people that, even if you don't feel something, it doesn't mean there's not something there. That's why I think it's so important to get the mammogram, because it was hiding.
Right. Yeah, I get the 3D mammograms so that, because I have implants in too, and I want to make sure they can see everything. So, because last week when I had Shannon Mann, she had a different type of breast cancer.
I feel like hers was triple positive.
I thought she called it ductal something. It was.
She had invasive ductal carcinoma.
I think that's right.
That's what I had too.
Oh, that's the same thing.
Yeah, but I want to say maybe she had triple positive. I can't be,
I don't know, but I do know that she had chemo first. Yeah. And then she had reconstruction. Then she had her mastectomy and everything.
Reconstruction. Yeah. It's called invasive ductal carcinoma that's the term. Or you can have invasive it's either ductal or lobular. And so most people are ductal. So, and then, they give you a stage and a grade of what it is. All triple negative. I was stage 2 and I was grade 3 on it's a state, from 1 to 4. Each of them are 1 to 4, and grade 3, meaning, and all triple negative patients are stage 3. I mean, grade 3, because it's the proliferation rate, how fast it's growing. I have a friend who
Mhm.
right now, she just got the diagnosis 2 weeks ago.
Uh,
And and I mean, a dear, dear, dear friend. And she just got the diagnosis and she is stage 1 and she's I think maybe grade 1 or grade 2, meaning I think she's grade 1, slow growing
so how did they find hers?
mammogram.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mammogram, people, you
Mammogram
gotta
too.
get those
Yeah, yeah,
mammograms.
yeah. So she's actually going with her to I got her in with my surgeon,
Mhm.
and then I'm going with her tomorrow to see the plastic surgeon, my same plastic surgeon.
Mhm.
So she's just starting this whole process.
So you said you changed oncologists. So what happened? You just didn't jive with that oncologist, and so you were like, I'm just
Um,
not.
he No, he had like really bad bedside manner,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm not going to spend,
Good
the
for
next
you.
the
Yes.
next year, whatever year, 5, 10 years, whatever, with
Mhm.
you. No, I'm just not going to do it. And I can, me, I get along with pretty much
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
I just
Right.
was like, I just,
Mhm.
his bedside manner, his whole demeanor was not, even my husband, my daughter, they were like, no.
So, but didn't you have to find somebody pretty quick? And
I
how did
did
you
go.
find somebody so quick?
Well, there was a woman there and she's since retired, but she was amazing. And I had to pull some strings to get in with
Mhm.
her.
Yeah, but I think that is the thing that you do have to be your advocate
Absolutely.
for yourself, and it's not like you have to put up with, I mean,
No,
you don't,
no.
and
You're
unfortunately we do this so much. We're like, especially when it comes to doctors, well, they must know best, and well, I just have to go along, and if they don't have great bedside manners, because there's a lot of doctors that don't have great bedside manners, well, I just have to deal with it. But you're right, especially with an oncologist, so you've got a long-term relationship with an oncologist. You're seeing them a lot.
Yes, exactly. And I just didn't feel good about him. I felt great about everybody else. I just didn't feel good
Mhm.
about him. And it's
Mhm.
funny because all my doctors, my surgeon, my oncologist, my radiation doctor, were all women. And my
Mhm.
plastic surgeon was a man, but he had the best bedside manner. So I
Mm.
used to say, but you're just like a woman. He was like, thanks a
I
lot.
bet, yeah, I
Yeah.
bet he really liked
Yeah,
that.
I was like, that's a compliment because your bedside manner is
Yeah.
so good. You're just so kind. And
Uh-huh.
no, I mean, he's the best. I
Mhm.
love him. So anyway, but yeah, I just decided I was just not going to be with that person.
Mhm. So what would you tell somebody, just like your friend was just diagnosed with breast cancer? I mean, what do you tell somebody? I know you help a lot of people. A lot of people reach out to you when
Yeah.
they are diagnosed.
Yeah.
And what do you tell people?
Well, several things. First of all, if you are diagnosed with breast cancer, do not, and I repeat, do not just go to a oncologist, a general oncologist. You want a breast oncologist that deals with strictly breast cancer. You want the best in your area.
Mhm.
You want to find the best, but you have to go to the specialist. Don't just see an oncologist. Second of all, I think being an advocate and having somebody with you, because I just remember it, like I said, it was the Charlie Brown teacher. Wah, 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 wah. I didn't hear anything. So to have somebody else in the room writing down what is going on, what they're saying, because you're going to want to go back and see exactly what was said. And you can refer back to those notes because you're thrown so much information. I mean, it's thrown at you so fast. And one thing that I think oncologists, I just found that I think they expect you to already know this stuff and you're not a doctor, so you don't know. And so all these words are thrown at you and all this, I mean, I had no idea what they were talking about. So you got to get book smart real fast on, breast cancer. And
So, Shannon said they started because her husband was going with her and writing down,
yeah,
but then they would get in the car and they both heard different things. So they started recording what the
yeah. And I
doctor
think that's,
said.
and that's what I
think
told,
that's,
yeah, I told my friend to do that too,
Mhm.
to record what they say so that you can go back and listen to that
Mhm.
if they'll let you do it. Sometimes
Oh.
they're funny about that. They're like, don't
Mhm.
record. I don't know. But yes, we had, actually it was you, most of the time it was my husband and my daughter in the room with me.
Mm.
And so we all kind of went back. Well, what did she say about this? Because you do that. You're
Mhm.
like, what did they say? I don't remember whatever.
Mhm.
So it's very important to have somebody with you,
Mhm.
and to, don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. I mean, that's what they're there for.
Mhm.
I mean, you're not versed in breast cancer, when you get the diagnosis. So it's just there are a lot of questions. And I'd say the third thing is, the mind is very powerful, as well as the tongue is very powerful, and your words are very powerful. And I learned that what you put out of your mouth into the universe is sometimes what you get. And I think being very positive and, having a positive outlook, positive attitude can be so healing. I mean, I really do. I think you can say, I remember people saying to me, and it bothered me so much, but people were, I mean, there were people that were being so sweet, and it wasn't anything negative that they said. It's just the way it sounded to me. But I remember people saying or writing me letters or notes and saying, I'm so sorry you're sick. And I was like, you know what? I'm not sick. I didn't feel sick. I mean,
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
feel sick.
Yeah.
So people
Mhm.
were labeling me as sick, but I'm like, I'm not sick. I
Mhm.
have breast cancer. I'm not sick. Sick is when you have pneumonia or you know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's sick to me. I just felt like, don't label me as a sick person, because I'm not sick. I have breast cancer. They're getting rid of it. So I just think that was sort of, I remember thinking, I'm not sick. I mean, I'm not sick. I just have breast cancer, but I think that
Well,
it's so important to say with your mouth, I'm going to get well. I'm being healed. I mean, whatever your faith is, I mean, thank you, God, that you're healing me.
mhm.
I'm a big believer in that.
Oh, I am too. And I have to say, I was watching you from afar because you were in Dallas and I was in Birmingham, but every time I would talk to you, every time I would see, you were blogging all during this time, you were on Instagram share, I mean, all of this during all this time. And I remember thinking, wow, I mean, you never seemed down. I'm sure you had some down days, because you just can't go through something like that and not have down days, but you did handle it very well and very positive outlook. And I think that's really hard. I really do think that would be hard. I mean, but
You know,
surely you had down days, right?
I mean,
Did
looking
you?
back on it, I don't remember a whole lot of down days.
I honestly probably don't think you probably did,
I don't,
because you and I've talked about this before, but I mean, and that's even hard to believe because you're like, well, how do you not? But you were very positive. I remember even when you lost your hair and then you had your halo and your beautiful wig. Your wig looked like your hair. I mean,
that
it
that
was
that was
like,
probably the most down I
was it
was
when you
losing my
lost your
hair.
hair?
That was the most down. Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
I mean, isn't that crazy as a woman? I mean, well, me being a vain woman, I guess, but
I do. I think that,
well,
yeah.
instead of going, am I going to lose my life? That's the first question you ask. Oh my God, am I going to lose my hair? And they're like, yeah, you better get a wig if you want one. I mean, so
Mhm.
it's just, that's kind of crazy, but I just, yeah, that was made me feel really down, I guess. But I don't know. I kind of felt, it's honestly the truth. I felt like God had his hand on me the whole time.
Mhm.
I remember going to, a friend took me to a healing service right before
Mhm.
I started, like a week before I started my chemo.
Mhm.
Oh no, maybe it was right before I had my mastectomy, before the whole thing started. And I remember going up to these, it was this very young church, and the pastors were up in the front and kids were running around, and they had no, the pastors had, were barefoot. And I was like, what is this place, you know? And I remember going, because they said, does anybody need prayer? And I remember going up there and saying yes. And these two pastors stood right beside me, and they said, what's going on? And I said, well, I just got diagnosed with breast cancer and I'm having a mastectomy, you know, next week or whatever. And they looked at me and they said, are you scared? And I said, no. I mean, no, I'm not scared.
Mhm.
And I just felt like, I don't know. I just felt like God had his hand on me the whole time. So, I mean,
Mhm.
that's all I can say is I felt like I was going to be okay,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and triple negative, you know, when you read about it, it doesn't sound like okay, you know, because it's sort of like
Mhm.
doom and gloom. But I don't know. I just felt like I was going to be okay.
And you have been, and you
Yep.
are. And that's, I mean, that's the beauty of it. So let me ask you this, how has your, I know your life has changed because it can't help but change when something like that. So how has your life changed since before breast cancer, after breast cancer?
Of course, it was younger. I think as you get older, you get, you know, I was 9 years younger. So I think as you get older, you get a little bit wiser. So I think that was going, I mean, I don't know if it was the cancer or just getting older, you know, but I think that I used to be really concerned about people pleasing and doing, you know, doing the right thing and whatever. And I really, I mean, I don't, it's not that I don't care, but I don't put as much into that. Like, if you like me, that's great. But if you don't like me,
Uh,
it doesn't bother me that you don't like me. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
right.
It used to kill me. You know, if somebody didn't like me, it used to kill me. But now it just doesn't. And I think I just don't get I don't get worked up as much anymore. I used to be kind of a stressed out person, firstborn type A kind of, you know, I just
Mhm.
am not that way anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm just a lot more low key. You know me and my,
Mhm.
like even my work, it's not like I don't care about my work, but I just don't go nuts.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
just don't
Mhm.
go I don't know. It's just I'm more calm for sure.
Mhm.
And I think I'm more into the being present,
Mm.
you know, just being present. When
Well, and I think you've really, you know, it goes back to this, and I can't, everybody I have on my podcast, we always talk about this, but you turned your mess into your message, and you have helped so many other women go through and walk through this. I mean, I have sent women to you, women I know reach out to you on Instagram, you know, friends of friends of friends, always. And you have been so there to talk to them, share, you know, advocate for them, to advocate for themselves, all of those things that are so important. Who would have thought, I mean, gosh, on those porch days when we used to sit on my porch, I mean, this would be a big part of your life, this,
I
you
know.
know, and it
Yeah.
is. I
I know.
mean, it is because people call you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's not like I hope I didn't make it sound like a minute ago when I said I didn't have any bad days. I mean, I did. And one thing that, I mean, like the hair thing, you know, but I
Yeah.
tried not to go down that road. But I will say that one thing, you know, just one thing about after you go through this, and it is life change, back to the life changing part, you know, you aren't ever the same because you can look healthy. You can look, everyone's like, oh, she's in remission. She's good. She's,
Mhm.
there's always that little in the back of your head. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
it's sort of like there's, I try not to, I try to squelch it and, push it
Mhm.
way far down, but there's always that little bitty, it's any cancer, anybody that's had any kind of cancer
Mhm.
or any kind of
Mhm.
a diagnosis that could come back, you always, it's there.
Mhm.
So it does kind of change who you are, and you try not to miss out on things. You try to just make the most of every situation, like I'm not going to miss any of my grandchildren's birthdays if I can help
Mhm.
it. I'm gonna, even if they don't live here, I'm gonna go girls trips, not gonna miss
Mhm.
out on the,
Yeah.
it's just you just don't want to miss out on anything anymore.
Well, and you realize that it is the experiences, it is the presence. And I'm talking like I don't know because I don't have breast cancer. I've never had any kind of cancer, but both my parents have passed
Yeah,
away
you've
from
been through it.
cancer. And I think part of that is as we get older, we realize that we may not live forever. We're not indestructible.
Yeah,
Like, so we don't want to take any of that time for
for granted.
granted. And it is such a nice time in our lives that we can slow down. And, unfortunately, I will say this, some people are just still in the midst of, because a lot of the clients I work with are a little bit younger than us. And so they're in the midst of the teenage or college age and then taking care of parents. And they are just, I mean, and they've got perimenopause and menopause. I'm like, remember those days? I remember
That's
those
tough.
days.
That's
It's
tough.
that's a tough time in life. But I think if you can get just a little bit further along, it is. And I do think with anything with cancer or Jeff had a episode where they shocked him twice and now he has a defibrillator and I think it does change you. It has to change you. You have to realize that, wow,
Yeah, that could have been over. It could
yeah,
have been over. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it does.
So let me ask you this. What do you remember? Because I know it's been a long time, but Shannon and I talked about this, like some of the things that people would say to her that were just so inappropriate. like, like she said, some people would say like, what was it like? What's your prognosis? Like, are you going to live? Or, I mean,
Yeah.
like, things
Yeah.
like that you're like, what
What?
would,
Yeah. I mean, and I hope she said yes. No, I think the one that always got me was, your hair will grow back. It's just hair. It'll grow back.
Mm.
And it's also, well, now you get to see what your hair looks like at every stage, when it grows back. And I was like, great, good, yay. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't choose that though. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was one thing that really bothered me was that, oh, it's just hair. It'll grow back. And
So
you're,
talking about hair, when your hair started growing back, was it different?
oh yeah. It was like,
Mhm.
it looked like, well, first of all, the color was nasty. It was so ugly. It was awful. And then it was like I looked like a poodle. I mean, it was like curly like a poodle. And then it just kind of, the longer it got, it straightened out.
Mhm.
But yeah, but I mean, like you lose your hair everywhere. I
Mhm.
mean, there's not one speck of hair on your, body. So it all comes back a little weird. And then I still have my bottom eyelashes still aren't the same.
Really?
They're wonky. They're just kind of wonky.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and it makes like putting on mascara is really hard
Mhm.
because they just go wonky.
Hmm.
Anyway, but I mean
Yeah.
that's not a
Yeah.
big deal. But yeah, that and then I had one person say to me, and it wasn't so much to me, but I thought how sad that they said it. But one person said, because I lost a lot of weight when I
Mhm.
was going through chemo, and they hadn't seen me, and they maybe had a couple glasses of wine, but said, "Oh my gosh, I should get cancer to lose." And I was like, okay, I
No.
grabbed them and I said, "Don't ever say that ever again. Don't say that."
Mhm,
But I never, you know how
mhm.
you don't forget
Yeah.
some things that people
Mhm,
say, and
mhm,
I will never
mhm,
forget that because I thought, how sad that you said that.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, but mostly it was, I guess I did get a couple of those. You're not gonna, I mean, I don't think anybody said you're not gonna die, are you? But I think it was mostly about the hair that I was just like,
Mhm,
oh my gosh, please quit saying that,
mhm.
because I didn't choose
Oh,
this.
yeah. So, okay. So what were some of the good things that people did for you that stand out? I mean, you don't have to list them all because I know you've got a lot of great friends, but like, what were some of the things that people did for you during that time that you were like, oh my gosh.
So there was one friend here that in Dallas, because I was relatively new back to Dallas when all this happened, but she had me coming to her prayer group. And had I not had breast cancer, I probably wouldn't have done that. But it was a very special time and a special group of women. One friend would just drop off, like I'd have like a little beautiful rose at the door. Like there were these beautiful, oh gosh, what are those roses called that are they have the big, there's a word for them and I can't think of it, but their petals are pulled back
Oh, I don't
and
know.
they're beautiful. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
one stem, but it's like huge. And she would leave them at my door and with a note. And
Oh.
then I had people bring dinner or
Mhm,
bring, one girl brought yogurt over, frozen yogurt, and my stomach was so sour from chemo
mhm.
and it was like hit the spot. And I remember after that making Buster go get them, go get that same
Oh.
yogurt because it felt so good on my stomach. And just people sending me cards, and I mean it was just little gifts along the way. It was sweet. I
Mhm,
mean, it was,
mhm,
everybody was so sweet.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things Shannon said, and I didn't realize this either, but she said, "Don't ask, just do for your
Yeah.
friend," because
Yeah. Yeah.
we're the worst people are going like, "No, it's fine. I don't need you to do anything,"
Yeah.
but it is, yeah, just do, right?
That's what I was saying. Those people would my
Yeah, they just
brought
did it,
flowers and
right?
they
Yeah,
just did it. It was like almost like
yeah.
once a week. Yeah. So
Oh,
she
that's
would
so
do
nice.
that. And yeah, there was a lot of sweet times. And that was the thing too about I look back on the whole thing and honestly, I I mean, I wouldn't change it.
Mhm,
I wouldn't change it
mhm,
at all. I mean, it kind of
mhm,
ended up being an opportunity for me, but I wouldn't change it because it
mhm,
did. And I had some real like God moments,
mhm.
that were really cool that I wouldn't change it.
Mm, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so awesome.
I wouldn't.
Well, I'm so happy that you are one of my besties, and I'm so glad that you made it through.
Me
I
too.
have one thing that I do regret when I think about that time is that how we're all so busy in our life. And I remember I would call you and I'd say,
Yeah,
like, well, I want to come see you. I want to come see you. And you were always like, no, this isn't a good time. Or, I mean, because you were probably being that person, like, no, it's okay. You don't have to take time out of your life. And I didn't book the flight, get a hotel room, and come. And I have to say that is like, if I could go back in time, that's what I would do. I would do that. But you just don't know. That's why I want people to listen to this. And that's one of the reasons I ask you that question. I asked Shannon that question, like, what do we do when our friend is sick? Like, don't wait on them to say, yeah, that'd be great. You do that for me.
that
Just
will
do it.
exactly. And don't beat yourself up about that at all. I hope you
Oh,
don't.
I'm not. I
Okay.
mean, like,
Don't let
I love you.
No,
So
I know. I mean, a lot of people from out of town were like, should I come?
I
I was
know,
just
I
like,
know.
no, you don't need to come. I mean, you don't need to come, but just be there after, be there
Mhm.
after. And most of the time feel that great. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? But anyway, no, I think that's great advice is just
Mhm,
do it.
mhm,
And, send a card, send a gift, send whatever. Phone
mhm,
calls were always good, just
mhm,
because I was home so much that phone calls were great.
mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I just think that's great advice.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not gonna keep you any longer. I know you got a busy day. I got a busy day ahead. But Kathy, thank you so much for taking the time. And thank you for being, like I said, my bestie. And I love you so much.
Love you so much.
And
And I'm so proud of you and what you're doing and that you
mm,
are, shining a light on breast cancer this month for awareness and, making women think about getting the mammogram and check yourself, be sure
mm.
to check yourself. If you
Because
feel,
that's Shannon found hers by checking herself.
well, there are a lot of people that have lumps and bumps,
Mhm,
and they'll go, "Oh no, I shouldn't go because my doctor, yeah, this is going to be nothing." It doesn't matter. That's what they're there
mhm,
for. I think you
mhm.
go regardless.
I agree.
So, just but
Mhm.
thank you for shedding a light on it and for doing what you do.
Well, thank you.
And I
Bye,
love you.
y'all. Love you. Mwah.
Mwah.